Thank you, Becky, and I'd like to say I wish you'd been teaching me. There's a man over there who knows what I said. I was in detention every night. Following on from Becky's observations there, I think it's important as well, while we're talking, and it leads on from Janet's point about a fighting fund, we have to get deadly serious about how we address this as a community and on an ongoing basis. It's no good having these meetings where we all go rah, 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 fade off into the night and then go, well, what's anyone doing about it? There's a well-known saying that motivational speakers often quote, which is, if it's to be, it's up to me. And that's the responsibility, I believe, of every single one of us, but with open and honest communication between us and sharing this information and bonding as a community. This could be the start of a real turnaround for Ramsgate, where instead of the bickering and the various projects all trying to outdo one another and complaining, I think let's have a clean sheet, let's get stuck into this, but let's make sure that we get the correct support, because shouting alone doesn't get the job done. We've got a speaker coming up in a little while, which is our MP, and to have the backing of our MP, I think is going to be very, very important, because this is going to need to be escalated to levels that are not just on a local basis. There will be the Fighting Fund bucket doing the rounds in a little while. Please, please, as generous as you can be. If it's 50p, it doesn't matter. If you can't afford, then it doesn't matter, because we're all in this together. But we will need to be raising funds and on an ongoing basis so that we can address this on a serious and sensible basis. So, with which, in addition to the Brett situation, and there's a lot more information, but as Janet said, we've got a Facebook page which is Nothing Concrete but Port Ramsgate. There will be some form of web presence set up, and we are trying to work on a media initiative so that those who aren't internet friendly and don't use it can actually get access. But I'd like to ask everyone here to get the word out there, because there's an awful lot of people that don't live in the Facebook bubble, and it's vitally important that we get this message out there. Now I'm going to hand over to the next speaker, which is, again, very well known to some of you. He may need the mic, he may not. Former councillor Ian Driver. Ian's got a reputation for flushing out what isn't good. Yeah? He's going to talk to you about an additional issue that is on top of this Brett's issue, and it is a very, very serious matter, because it goes to show why we have been, how shall we say, not consulted on Brett's. By the way, very, very quickly, if I can just take the time, with regard to consultation, People Power works. The deadline for Natural England to make submissions to KCC with regard to this Brett application was last Tuesday. And you may think, the excellent news was that due to the, and I quote Heather Twizzell from Natural England, the unprecedented volume of emails in response of the people of Ramsgate, that deadline was extended to this weekend. So, this campaign is already working, and again, we can make this work, but we will be, please, imploring every single one of you to make representation in the next 24 hours to Natural England so that they can really show the numbers and the feeling in this community to KCC, because I think we're all sick and tired of being sick and tired of being the mushrooms of Kent and kept in the dark and fed a bit here and there, aren't we? With which, I'll hand you over to Ian Driver. Pin your ears back, folks, because this isn't good.
Thanks, John. Yeah, good evening, everybody. I'm not going to repeat the technical things that have just been talked about, and thanks to everyone for the hard work that they've done in looking at planning law and poring over lots of complex documents. Some fantastic research has been done there, which really underlines the strength of the case that we've got to stop this happening. It's just sad that for the second time in 18 months we're having a large public meeting in Ramsgate to try to stop a development at our port that in any definition is going to be polluting, dirty and nasty. And it really is a shame that we've got to come back again and again and again to try to stop that. And that's what I particularly want to talk about before I get onto the other news, about one of the areas, or some of the areas, that have developed a situation whereby time after time, nasty polluting developments right in the centre of what is the jewel in the crown of the tourist trade in Ramsgate come back all the time. And really, it's about time that the powers that be at Ramsgate Town Council, at Thanet District Council and at Kent County Council make up their mind once and for all what the economic future of Ramsgate should be. And at the moment what we've got is a dog's breakfast of conflicting, contradictory plans and policies which create nothing but confusion. Nobody has grabbed a hold of all the different policies about what can go on inside of Ramsgate and come up with a comprehensive, holistic document that puts it all together and allows us to move forward. And we've got a situation now where the future plans for the port are more or less at war with each other. This year, April 2016, the Ramsgate Economic Plan was published. Not really a good document if you, good document if you've got insomnia, 30 odd pages, but actually I read it for the first time last night, and it is a fascinating document. It says that the long-term economic future of Ramsgate should be a tourist-based, visitor-based economy. That's what it says, and a lot of work went into producing that report, and I believe it cost somewhere in the region of £10,000 that was funded by the government. And then we've got policies about our local environment that John from the Ramsgate Society has already mentioned. We've got the 9 special environmental designations that our coastline and our seafront and our marine areas have been designated by the central government, by International Ramsar Convention, which again ties in with the fact that the future of our town should be looking forward to a situation based on tourism, environmental protection of the fantastic resources that we've got along our coastline, which are not just fantastic, they're unique. I'm unaware of any other seaside place in the country that's got 9 special scientific designations for its marine areas and its coast. But then we've got Kent County Council's Mineral and Waste Plan from 2013. No, you've probably never heard of it. It's about 400 pages long. You can download it off the Kent County Council website. It was agreed in 2014. It goes for 15 years, and that plan designates Ramsgate Port as a legally protected area for the loading, unloading and processing of aggregates. That's a policy that was decided by Kent County Council. Then we have another policy. This is the last policy, I promise you. I could find a lot more, but this is the last one. Then we've got something called the Ramsgate Maritime Plan. And that was agreed in 2014. And the Ramsgate Maritime Plan, once again you can download it from Thanet Council's website. It says, and I quote, this is a direct quote from the Ramsgate Maritime Plan, there is scope to handle greater volumes of aggregate which the port will exploit. So, it is, at this moment in time, as we're studying, talking and listening, it is official council policy to promote the exploitation and the expansion of the Brett mineral and aggregate trade at the port. Now, we've heard a lot about planning and the technicalities involved in planning, and that will be so important to the community if we launch challenges and a fight back. But I say the only owner of a piece of land is the final arbiter of what happens to that land. Whatever a planning application might say, whatever planning rules might say, if you own that land, you do not need to allow that land to be used for any purpose that you don't disagree with.
Yeah.
So Thanet Council and the Stewart and there's Councillor Campbell here as well. It's a shame that your other 54 colleagues weren't here tonight, because they'd see by one of the biggest public meetings I've been to in a long time that there's 200 plus people here now who would say to Thanet Council, for goodness sake, go back to Brett, say we've reconsidered the way you want to use our land and we're not going to let you do it. The other things I want to say, and I will get onto something worse in a moment if it's entirely possible, I talked about the mineral plan. I talked about the maritime plan. And both of those plans were agreed by council officers and were agreed by councillors of all political parties in 2014 and 15, but there was no public consultation whatsoever on the mineral plan. It would have been possible when the mineral plan went out for consultation for our county councillors and our council officers to have organised a public consultation about whether or not you want to see your port as a legally protected dumping ground for aggregates. But not a word was mentioned. No consultation. Then we have the maritime plan, which I just quoted from a moment ago, which seemed to suggest that aggregate was the next best thing to sliced bread. And again, that maritime plan, it was not publicly consulted on. There was consultation, yes. It was behind closed doors, by invitation only, by a select list of people whose faces probably fitted from industry and other things to come in and talk about it. But the general public, the thousands of people in Ramsgate who have got to live with the consequences of the policy-making decisions, were not asked once whether they thought it was a good idea to expand the trade in aggregates at the port of Ramsgate. Not once were they asked. So the decisions that have led to us being here for the second time in 18 months are based on undemocratic, behind-doors secrecy by elected councillors of all parties and council officers. That's wrong. Now I'll go on, and I'll be as quick as I can. I really am sorry I've took up so much time. I will be quick. Now I'll go on to the other issue I wanted to raise tonight. 2 days ago, through a Freedom of Information request which I sent to an organisation called the South East Economic Partnership, I'll get that right, I got some information back in an email yesterday morning, and basically, this is breaking news, but Thanet District Council has placed a bid, or should I say placed a bid, back at the beginning of this year to the South East England Economic Partnership, asking the government for the sum of £4.7 million, and then Thanet Council had agreed to top up that £4.7 million with £2 million. I don't know where that's coming from because we told the council his scheme. So £6.7 million requested in total to put into a pot to begin a 3-stage development of the port of Ramsgate. Now, We do, of course, want to develop the port, but we want to be consulted about what that development might be. But I can tell you what that development, that proposed development is, because it's in the email, and I'll be publishing it on my blog site tomorrow morning. Just Google Ian Driver's Fight, and it will be there for you to see. But that development is an alongside quay. Now, I've never known what an alongside quay is. I think it means a boat can come in sideways and unload into the quay. That alongside quay is designated for bulk cargo, for bringing in and taking off bulk cargo, including aggregates. So that alongside quay is definitely destined for use by Bretts to increase the capacity of the aggregate it intends to process. And then on top of that, they are going to install, and the work that's going on now is separate to this, they want to install a ro-ro double-decker berth. And they want to bring back freight ferries, not passenger ferries, freight ferries to the port of Ramsgate. And they're going to increase the capacity. The plan is to increase the capacity of Ramsgate Port to take 1 million HGV lorries per year. So if you think about a massively expanded port with Bretts pumping out all its pollution, and then you think again on top of that about 1 million HGVs, they'll probably never even reach that number. But even if it was a tenth of that number, if you're talking about massive HGVs with pumping out all their pollution from diesel into the port of Ramsgate, you can bet your bottom dollar that that will be the death of tourism in Ramsgate. And that was done in secrecy. There was no public consultation with anyone who lives in Ramsgate about the refurbishment of the port, about the investment in an alongside berth to make Brett's job easier, about 1 million HGV lorries trundling around Ramsgate day and night, 365 days of the year. No consultation. It was done under the radar, behind closed doors, and this is what we get. And I think that tonight's meeting, the fantastic community response we've got here, the cross-party political unity we have, is the beginning, as John just said, of a very big fight back to stop what's proposed for the port and to protect our town and the environment of our town and the tourist trade. Because I believe, for one, that the future of Ramsgate is not going backwards and industrialising and doing things that failed. We need to be thinking to the future and looking to things, new things that are already succeeding. And as you can see by walking around Ramsgate every day, there is a growth in tourism and the visitor economy. So I'm going to show now, and thanks for allowing me longer than normal, although I'm never short. I think the Fighting Fund, the cross-community working that's going on here is absolutely fantastic. And what this campaign could do is actually, as John said, really seriously define the future of Ramsgate, not just for ourselves, but for our children and their children, and give us the town we really want. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ian. The BBC have broken the news and are covering this quite devastating news actually about the million vehicle movements. And I think given that our concerns about the environment and our beaches and seafront environment, this goes to answer an awful lot of why we have battled to protect that West Cliff. And the warden of the West Cliff sitting down there who has worked extremely hard to make it a much more pleasant environment than it was allowed to be. So thank you, Nancy. As a little aside, by the way, there is a joint litter pig on Sunday, and this is not joking, because we need to gather evidence of what debris there is along that western undercliff. Friends of Ramsgate Seafront and the Ramsgate Society have got a joint initiative this Sunday, but one of the areas that we will be doing a clean-up and a litter pick is along the Western Undercliff. If there is anybody that could join us from the pier yard at 10 o'clock, please come and join us, because we will be gathering evidence while we make the environment nicer down there. And again, we're just not going to stand for it. I'm going to shut up and hand over to a gentleman that I think needs no introduction. I know where Craig stands on these issues, and I'm very grateful, and I think we all should be, that we have an MP that's as engaged as he is, because we have suffered in the past from lack of engagement. And I'll hand you over, because I think Craig's got quite a lot to say about these various issues. Craig McKinley.
Well, thank you, John. As you know, I'm here very regularly, and I was looking forward to a nice drink and something to eat this evening, and I'm sure all you were as well. But I think this goes to show the strength of this community, that at very short notice we filled a room. And the sad thing is, we were here, as Ian said, just 18 months ago, when we had a similar crackers project, but under the O'Regan brand, that was wholly rejected by the community. And here we are just a short time afterwards, doing exactly the same thing all over again. Now, Ramsgate has been a troubled jewel over the last 20 years, but it's finding its shine again. We have regeneration on a scale that we haven't seen for a long time, a lot of new money coming in, people actually making a big investment in our towns. Just a couple of weeks ago, the first stage of the Coastal Communities bid for £1.7 million, not a great deal of money, but all very, very beneficial, has been approved through the first stage. So we're now going to work to the second stage to deliver those improvements in Ramsgate. You've got Janet, who's been working so hard for so long on her motor house project. We've got the clock house project that the Ramsgate Society are involved with. We've got these jewels of the St Augustine Chapel. We have got so much here, I'm getting frankly sick to death that we're being used as the dump, fag end of business that nobody wants. The planning situation on this site is complicated because of this general permitted development order, and I'm very pleased that Janet has been out measuring the size of things that are there. But what is needed for them to carry forwards is a certificate of lawfulness of proposed use. Now, that will be either permitted or not permitted by KCC as the relevant authority. But given their mineral processing plans that have been published and agreed for the last 2 years, I'm not sure I'm very confident of them giving a strictly unbiased appraisal of where we are. But what I can do is, of course, raise this with the Secretary of State. And I intend the Secretary of State to be made fully aware of what is happening here and what we seriously do not want. I've already written to Paul Carter, the leader of KCC, don't laugh, who's not always deemed to be a great friend of us down here. But I've also written to James Cross, the CEO of Natural England, making sure that he knows my point of view and the strength of feeling of this community. There will need to be, because this is a different type of use than what is there at the moment, there has to be a full environmental audit. Now, that is a great benefit to us. So we've got the opportunity to actually stop this on a number of means, and I'm hoping that the environmental permit process will actually stop this. Now, I'm not new to this type of use of land, and I raised this some 18 months ago when I was on the electoral stump with Ian, and it's funny how often we seem to share electoral platforms. And it's funny, we got on well then, and we seem to be getting on even better of late, because Ian does have a really good nose of sniffing these things out. And I only heard today about this proposed or this already submitted application for South East Local Enterprise Partnership funding, with potentially TDC funding, with all the other capital issues that TDC have. I don't know where they're going to find £2 million, but that's a matter for them. But me as your local MP had no clue that an application had been made to the South East LEP for £4.7 million. Not the first idea. And I don't think that's acceptable, because I want to work in partnership with this TDC. I know they're of a different political flavour, but where they need help, I'm here to help them. But they obviously didn't tell me about this one, because they knew for a fact I would not be helping them on this proposal. But the thought of freight, even if it is just 10% of the potential million, that would be 300 large HGVs passing through the town every day. Now, if they were to go up the tunnel, one might argue, well, that may not be quite so bad. But we live here, we know how often that tunnel is out of use. Quite regularly. So where would that traffic go? Military Road. Military Road. 40-ton lorries of high weight, high volume, low value would be trundling through on a very regular basis. But I think what Ian said, and he's captured what I've said for a long time, and I said it last time we were all together. This land is Crown Estate land on a long-term, if not perpetual lease to Thanet District Council. I didn't tell Ian, but I put an application in for his garden to build a little bungalow for myself. Now, if that is approved, Ian will tell me I can't do it. I haven't actually, but I might think about it, yes. But the reality is exactly the same here. Thanet District Council effectively own that port land.
Yes.
We don't want it.
No.
You don't want it. Tell Thanet District Council it is not to happen on land that they own. Beyond that, we do need a new thought about what Ramsgate Port is going to be. We've been messing around with that land for far too long. And I'm sorry to say, and I understand the financial situation of TDC, I understand that port and harbour loses over £3 million a year. All of us have to put in £3 million just to support what it does or doesn't do there in maintaining standing buildings. But just to try and get a little bit of rent from some company that will do activities that none of us want is not acceptable. We need a new community plan for that port, because there's one out there. And it should not be dirty industries in the middle of the jewel of South East England that will be so much more. Now, it may be that we need to cross a Rubicon that we've all been dealing with for ages. Will we get a passenger ferry? They know it's here and no one wants it. But it seems that we may be getting massive freight. And that's certainly what no one wants. It's time we had a discussion, should it be something entirely different? And I think we're approaching that time when we need to consider that that should be something entirely different that we want, that will attract good jobs, good skills, and something that will make this town flourish once more. So I'm with you every step of the way. I'll fight this with the Secretary of State, I'll fight it with the KCC, and I will make sure that every environmental stumbling block will be in the way of this proposal. Simply, Brett, you're not welcome here, and TDC, you own the land, just say no.